And the song today would have to be "Do You Feel Like I Do" by Frampton. This is the guy that taught me about Frampton. That's his motorcycle. He's working on that motorcycle by me as a kid. That blue truck was his blue truck. It was Uncle Bobby's blue truck. This is the guy that taught me about Frampton, taught me about Foreigner. This guy taught me how to break out of my shell. Y'all hop in. Let's go fix some hot tubs in the rich neighborhood. Welcome to the Wrecking Yard. I'm Jerry Wayne Longmire, and y'all are presumably still y'all. All are welcome in the Church of Internal Combustion. If you know a little something about cars, you're in the right place. If you don't know anything about cars, you're still in the right place. I'm glad you're here. I'm gonna be honest, with y'all. I struggled a little bit writing this one. My Uncle Bobby was a character as larger than life, and when somebody makes up so much of who you are and personality, it's hard to dig into that. It was a little much. Give me just a second. I think I see a spider dropping right in front of the camera, right there. Get on, booger. Ah, that's the pitfalls of filming in the garage. Um. Anyways, I struggled with it. Needless to say, loudest chair in the world. Um, I did. I struggled all week with it. I got really busy during the week, which was cool. I went and did a bunch of comedy with some of my friends. And one of the things that happens as you get more successful in stand up, your class that you started with and your friends that you started with, y'all get to hang out less and less because, you're all doing your own gigs elsewhere. And so for a couple of my buddy Slade Ham's on tour right now. And I wanted to go be a part of that. He hit me up when he was in Houston. I was like, let's do it. And then ended up tagging along to Dallas. We had a great show in Addison at the Addison Improv. Those people treated us really great. And then Friday night, he invited me to go down. They just opened a Punchline Comedy Club here in Houston. And I haven't been following along very closely. Didn't really know much about it, but I've not a person that pays a lot of attention to what's happening with the comedy clubs anymore because I usually use different types of venues. But I went, it was for networking, going to go meet some people that matter that, you know, I need to get my name in front of. And it turned out to be great. Saw a lot of friends, ran a lot of people, but what they're doing at that club is really cool in that it's the first time in a long time that as a comedian, I felt welcome to be in the club. It's been a long time since I've been in a comedy club that wanted the local scene to really hang out in there and really be a part of it and treat them right. And it was interesting. It kind of reminded me of the old Laugh Stop, the way things were there. But they're very inclusive. They're trying to get everybody in there so they can put on some good shows. I ended up getting a network with some people that are important to network with and are interested in what I can do and what we can do together. So I'm excited about that. That's a nationwide chain. So, anything good that comes of that could be more travel and places that are maybe a little harder for me to access, like Philadelphia and stuff like that. If I was on a corporate club tour or something, who knows? That's why you go do networking. You go do networking and meet people and put on your best face and you know try to say the right things and get in the right circles. Everything's a good old boys club, even when it's not boys. It's just the way life works, the way every job works. And but usually those things are terrible. And then last night, Friday night was just fantastic. I had the best time. I enjoyed all the people I met. I got to see some friends of mine do stand up that I haven't seen in a while. I got to see young Will Loden go out there and kick ass in front of a full house. It was cool. I enjoyed it. Um, and then I came home still concerned about how to write this thing and how to finish writing this thing. And I decided not to do that. I decided to pull an Uncle Bobby. I decided to just dip into Evan Williams and have myself a, hard in the paint night. I got lit and I listened to all the music that I love because I love it because of him. And just thought about this time period and everything's going on. So we're running a little loose today. We're going to see where we end up. But it's I've got a lot put together here. We're gonna try to get through it all. But he's a big part of who I am, and I enjoyed the memories I mined last night. We had a good time drinking and howling at the moon, talking to each other. And though he's been spoiler, he's been passed for many years. I still miss him dearly. Think about him a lot. So it's gonna be cool. You guys are gonna love Uncle Bobby. He's right. And I used that little picture of that 86, 87 Toyota pickup because I couldn't find a picture of his truck anywhere. But his was a 1986, no, it was 87. It was a 1987 extended cab or extra cab, Toyota two-wheel drive, had a little 22 RE in it. The reason the picture and the art for this podcast says 83 is because I screwed up and told the lady that did my art that it was 83. And she just puts whatever I tell her because she's, not a car historian. So that's on me, gentlemen. That's on me. I just texted her the wrong thing when I was getting her to do the art for me, and here you have it. So I know there seemed like some folks was worried about it. I don't personally think it matters. I think any Toyota before 1990 is basically the same. Uh, Definitely reliable, right? Nobody can question that. Nobody can question the reliability of Toyota. Nobody can question the quality of the product. You can't. If you do, you just sound like you're being jealous and ugly, and it's not becoming. Toyota made a fine product. Toyota's made a lot of fine products, but the Toyota pickups were exceptional little mini trucks. And when I tell you my Uncle Bobby loved mini trucks, like that's all I remember him driving. My 72 F100 was his pickup. And that was the last full size truck I remember him ever having. Because after that, dude, if he could find him a little Mazda or a little Datsun, whatever he could find that was a little mini pickup, it was perfect for his little job, what he did. And that's what he loved, man. He loved them little mini trucks. I don't know anybody. And he would just run them till the wheels fell off, then go score him another one somewhere. It was fantastic. His truck in particular, all his little mini trucks. This was always my favorite part about when Uncle Bobby. His pickup. I'll just say his pickup had a little white toolbox on it, and inside that little white toolbox in the bed was full of PVC fittings and hacksaws and PVC glue and maybe a propane torch and a lot of plumbing sandpaper and a little toolbox with wrenches and channel locks, all that kind of good stuff, plumbing wrenches and Torx head screws for taking apart the electronics on hot tubs. He primarily worked on swimming pools and hot tubs most of my life. He had done other things. He'd worked for the railroad. More importantly, he was a singer songwriter and a pretty brilliant musician. Never went to school for any of that, and but also knew he was good and was quite proud of his abilities. But yeah, his truck toolbox full of PVC fittings, glue, tools. He called it the Silver Bullet, and it sounded like a beer can when you shut the doors. And I think maybe most of the time we were driving it, about half the time it was running on 3 cylinders. It was and it's on the thing about everybody's like, oh, Toyota's unkillable. It's not unkillable. You have to do maintenance to everything. And there's even good things. If you take them and you just run the dog piss out of them and don't do anything to take care of them, they will fail. And Toyota's right there on top of the list. I have failed some Toyotas in their maintenance and caused them to fail. I guarantee you they will all take a crap if you treat them badly enough. But this little Toyota, he bought it cheap. You know, it wasn't in great condition when he got it, and um, honestly, I mean, you're gonna hear he drove it drunk a lot and hit many things with it. You know, caused a problem or two, time or two. Were you lucky? Did you? I don't know, man. I know not everybody's lucky enough. Are you lucky enough to have a cool uncle, like the one that's just a little bit older than you? You know, I don't know. He was mine. He was he was more like a brother. I think he's only about 10 years older than me, if that. Maybe a little older than that. I guess he was like 12, 13 when I was a toddler. So maybe 12, 13 years, 10 years. I don't know. He But I'll tell you this: if you've seen me on stage or met me in person, then you've met my Uncle Bobby, because he was the person that taught me to break out of my cage and be a lot more than I was. Before we get too deep off into it, let's thank our sponsor, the Everyone Racers podcast. Everyone Racers is a podcast about amateur endurance racing from beginner to advanced, as well as the news, tips, and tricks that go along with our hobby. Four friends and often teammates, Chrissy Matura, Christopher Abbott, Tim Burr, and Christian Mental Ward, discuss current racing trends and news, as well as occasional interviews and guests who are interesting people with different perspectives on racing and car culture. There you have it. These are our guys right there, man. And like I said, I've listened to quite a bit of the podcast. In fact, I think them and my management are in the process of setting up some time for me to go to a race. There's a race coming to Texas. So I'm excited about the possibility of maybe getting to go and hang out with those guys and go to my first amateur endurance race. I think it's called 24 Hours of Lemons. And just there, I think I'm going to have a ball. That sounds like right up my alley. So I'm really excited about having been introduced to these guys, also as well as maybe getting to be introduced to these guys. So it's going to be really cool. Anyways, Everyone Racers podcast. Make sure you check it out. I will put a link in the live chat when we're premiering, and I will also put a link in the comments and pin it to the top of the comments. I think I can do that on YouTube. So I will do that. If you're just listening on audio, just search Everyone Racers podcast. It comes up really quickly on Spotify. All right. Now for some comments from last week's episode, and I have those right here saved. Let's look at what we got. My phone is so hot. What's happening, baby? At Dirt Rider 3526. Please do a what the truck says about you with the 2007 Toyota Tundra. I have one. I love it. Great plow and hauling rigs. Yeah, I mean, they're clearly very good at their jobs. I don't really do that's not what we're doing here. This is and I'm pretty sure I've done a couple of that generation Tundra. I feel like there's been two or three of them in my videos. But go through the videos, check them out. I'm sure there's one there. But if you go to any of my profiles and go to the shorts or the reels or whatever, there is a submission video for truck astrology. And it will give you all the instructions to submit a truck. And that's the only way to do it. And that's the only way it gets to me. It's the only way it works. So do that. But I don't really do any of that here. At Esteban Benibez, please take a listen to the album Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats if you haven't already. That album's some modern country blues. It blows modern stadium country out of the water, although I would skip the first couple songs. Thank you for the episodes and hours of relatable stories. And now I'm going to have to go figure out what songs you're talking about, because I freaking love Nathaniel Rateliff. SOB is one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite drinking whiskey on the porch songs there is SOB. I love that song. So now I got to go figure out what songs you don't want me to listen to, because I bet I listened to them and I liked them. At Kevin Carter. Life's amazing. I was sitting in my shop yesterday polishing a wheel cover for my daughter's first car. She recently had to send to the wrecking yard after a timing chain explosion. Oh no. I fired up my computer to YouTube something, and the first thing that popped up was your podcast live, so of course I clicked on it, and there you are polishing a hubcap. We may be brothers from another mother. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you tuning in, listening too, and that's some cool synergy right there. I just found these. Uh, they were in a dilapidated box of Christmas decorations in this attic. And best I can figure is they came off about a 1948 Buick that belonged to Rachel's great grandparents. Not great grandparents, actual grandparents that belonged to her grandma and her papa Raymond. Seen pictures of the car, and it's the only car I've ever seen pictures of in this driveway had hubcaps, like it had baby moons on it. So I'm pretty sure that's what they come off. Uh, I guess I could probably look it up and measure them. Mm-mm-mm. All right, what are we doing? This so this is about man, this is like 1998. I'm probably about 20 years old. A couple years out of high school. Wild as shit, bro. Just rambling. And I wanted to clear something up from last week's episode because I told that whole story about my brother, but you have to understand that there was a lot of different perspectives to that, and a lot of us felt very differently about the whole situation. And at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered to me was that one of the reasons I kicked that girl out of my life was because I was like, even though I was mad at my brother, there was no option for kicking him out of my life. I mean, we were mad. We didn't talk for a while, but we both apologized to each other for our transgressions and tried to make up for it. And I am honest when I'm telling you that I could get rich tomorrow and start doing for him every day and never pay him back for all the things he's done for me in my life. He's honestly the best friend any man could ask for. And I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't want anybody getting into that story and be like, "Oh, he's not. He just, we're all flawed. We all make a mistake here and there." I made so many mistakes on his part, and at the time of this, it's right after I've made a huge mistake with Joey, and it's shameful too, man. I was hard up for money, and me and his girlfriend were roommates at the time, and I stole a bicycle that he had and pawned it, and she found the pawn slip and told him about it, and which she should have. And it was a dirty, rotten. It was one of these things where I was like, oh, I just need a little money to get payday. As soon as payday, I'll go get the bike, and I didn't. Got behind even worse. It's when you start doing desperate, dumb shit. Uh, but it was a sorry move, and Joey forgave me for it. But it took us a little while to get past it. But this time period. I'm acting a fool, man. I'm 20 years old. I don't have any. I am completely. I think at the very beginning of this, I'm living in Pineville, Louisiana, and I'm like staying with my parents for a little bit. Went through a bunch of crap in Houston. Then, of course, when stuff happened to me and Joey, I moved out of there. And I'm just wild, man. I'm wild. I'm staying at my parents' house. I'm sick to death of NDT and working for machine shops. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired of smelling like grease and oil all the time. Tired of tired of spending all night on graveyard shifts measuring parts. Tired of shooting 2-inch pipe for days at a time to get through backlogs. I'm just tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not having fun. I'm not enjoying my life. And it just feels like all I do is work. And then, yeah, I got some money, but then you blow through it when you get a day off work just because you're so fried, you know. Um, Whatever. I'm just not having a good. I'm not enjoying. So I'm just being kind of wild. I'm unmoored. I'm unmoored. And sometimes when you're unmoored, you go home. And this is not the only time that I ran back to Kilgore, Texas, or Lover's Chapel, if you will, but this is one time in my life that I did. And I had a 1978 Pontiac Trans Am that I bought from Joey's dad. And everything I owned fitted in the trunk of that 1978 Trans Am. I would just drive around, do NDT jobs and stuff in it, and live out of it basically. And then stay with my parents when I wasn't working or whatever. And so I decided to go to Livers Chapel. I talked to Uncle Bobby, and Uncle Bobby was living in my granny's old house out in the wrecking yard, and I always had a room there anyways. He told me, come on, I'll let you go to work with me. We'll go work on hot tubs and stuff together till you find you a steady gig or whatever. And so I did. I drove out to Livers Chapel, and I moved in and, my little bit of belongings out of the back of my Trans Am. Sorry, I don't have a project day, but I do have this box of crap that I need to go through and figure out. I had like 2 boxes break, and I just had to pick everything up, throw it in boxes, and well, you know what half this mess is. Some of it came out of my old Yukon when I cleaned it out and sold it. So we'll go through it together. It'll be fun. Um, my uncle Bobby and me have been tight since I was a kid. We just we've just always been super close, man. We're not that far apart in age, and there's just picture after picture of me and him hanging out together. He's my mom's youngest brother, and he could do just you know like, man. First of all, I ain't trying to be crass. I know it ain't everybody's way, but this man could get laid anywhere, and he wasn't in his mid years. He wasn't much to look at. He was short and fat and balding, and didn't dress exceptionally nice all the time. Usually just like he got off work, right? Old work shirt and blue jeans and work boots, ball cap. But he could pull a woman. He could pull women in South Dakota. Man could pull women in Alaska. Leave the rest of the town completely dry. It was amazing. Beautiful women. Beautiful women. He had no problem talking and entertaining. He's funny, charming. Uh, just, just you never saw him coming. He's John. He's Al Pacino's character in The Devil's Advocate. He was the guy that girls woke up with and went, "What the hell did I do?" And he was that guy. But then they would do again and again. He always women just adored him and hated him too, also because of some of his ways. And you're a kid, you don't care about that kind of stuff. You just know he's popular with the girls, but he always had pretty girls. Um, always, always. And this is who I'm 20 years old. I'm moving in with. I'm a roommate with this guy. And we're going to work on hot tubs during the day. And this is like I tell jokes about him on stage in my act. I say he's the guy that doesn't go to work till 10 a.m. because he's a functional alcoholic, and he was at the time. Like bro, he would get up about 9, and we'd get out there, get the truck, and he'd make a couple phone calls, find out who all we had to go do work for, if we had to go install or deliver a hot tub, and then we'd stop at the liquor store on the way into Kilgore. There's a little liquor store right there across from Walden's Groceries on 42 going into Kilgore, and we'd stop in there, and he'd get him a little fifth Yukon Jack and a Coca Cola, and we'd just take turn. We'd get out, we'd leave the liquor store. He usually cashed a couple checks at the liquor store, buy some cigarettes for the day. He liked Cools. We smoked them Cools, and then we'd run over to Longview and get our marching orders. Go pick up parts if we need to pick up parts or whatever. And he also had a secret cache of hot tub parts at out there in the wrecking yard for a while. He had all of these old hot tubs over the years. He'd been paid to haul off or do whatever. He'd rob all the good parts off of them, and he had them in a little shed out there where he could get to his little selection. And he would sell these parts to customers with old systems. And I'm telling you, the man could fix anything. Electronics, electronics. He was ahead of everybody in the '80s when it came to electronics. He could play 6 or 7 different instruments by ear. He had taught himself to play by ear. He could play guitar beautifully. Not as good at this time, but he could. He could. He was a hell of a guitar player. He was an animal lover. Loved animals. Like He's just a he's just this dude. He was a guy, and people didn't give him a lot of guff. He was pretty tough, you know. He didn't take no mess off nobody, and you always knew it was him coming. You see that little silver Toyota truck banging down the road. Here he come. But yeah, we'd go to the liquor store, and then we'd go work on hot tubs for the day, and that was just kind of life. And we'd get done work on hot tubs. Of course, then we um, I had this cousin named Jenna that I guess they all thought I didn't know we were cousins, which I know for a fact we are now because I've done the DNA work. But we never knew who my mom's biological dad was. But I have found out who my mother's biological father is, and I now know I'm related to these other people too. And but yeah, she was my cousin. She had a bar there in Kilgore called Jenna's Honky Tonk, I think, right on the corner of like 31 and maybe 135, I think. I'm sure it's not there anymore. I can't imagine anything's still there anymore. But we would go out to that. We'd go to that little honky tonk straight up. Sometimes we'd go by the dollar store, buy us a clean shirt, right? Gotta look good for the girls. A little cheap cologne. Then we go to Jenna's honky tonk. Sometimes Uncle Bobby would sing. You know, he's a hell of a harmonica player, and he'd front a couple bands every now and then. Sometimes there'd be pool tournaments. Man was a pool shark like nobody's business. When he taught me how to play pool, this is no crap. This is like during this time period. I'm like 20 years old, and I thought I knew how to shoot pool. And I started hanging out with Uncle Bobby. And Uncle Bobby, about lunchtime every day, we did a job or something in Kilgore. He would take me over to the VFW, and he'd tell me to put $1 on the table. And then, of course, when you do that at the VFW, anybody in the VFW can come up and play you for $1, right? Just not a big deal. $1 a game. So he'd make me put up $1 a game, but if I lost, he'd also make me give him $1. So it would cost me $2 every time I lost. And that's how he taught me. And he would just sit over there on his bar stool and drink and try to weird me out, make me miss shots, and give me advice from over there. And then talk. He would talk trash to whoever was playing me. Hey, I taught this boy how to play. Y'all don't even know. Y'all ain't know about young blood here. I taught this boy how to shoot pool with a 2x4. You ain't got a sporting chance now. He's got a real cue in his hand. And these guys would just mop the floor with me, and then I'd have to pay them and pay Uncle Bobby. And then he'd say, put another $1 up, and that's what it made me a hell of a hand. I got to be a pretty good stick, not as good as he was good. I beat him a couple times, but he had this break. He would stomp the floor and break in balls and get everybody's attention in the room. He just had it down, and he would drop balls every time. He was really good pool player. For a long time while we were in that house, I think it's when we were in that house. It may have been when he had his trailer. He had he was over in Shreveport one night and caught these old boys off in the hood uh, dog fighting some dogs. And one of them was looked like an English pit bull, pretty much. Just big and sloppy. And poor thing was about half dead and chewed up and wasn't winning many fights. It didn't seem like. And Uncle Bobby, I told you, he's soft hearted. He told them old dudes that had that dog. He said, "Man, let me have that dog." And they of course didn't want to give up the dog. And I think he ended up paying them $50 for the dog. And he took Gizmo and brought Gizmo back to Granny's place and sort of doctored him up with Neosporin and stuff, and just started feeding Gizmo. And Gizmo just hung out. Gizmo would ride in the back of the Toyota pickup, but when we were going, he would jump up and get on top of the toolbox, and he never fell off. But this dog would jump up on top of that toolbox and ride on that toolbox. And you see Uncle Bobby turning left in Kilgore, that dog was looking off to the left, getting ready for the turn. I know it's not safe, but it's just what was happening. That dog liked riding on that toolbox. And he stank to high heaven, so you want to let him in the cab. He's in the bed. Uncle Bobby would pull up to McDonald's and get a child's a Happy Meal. And Uncle Bobby would take the drink and then just throw that Happy Meal in the back of the truck, and Gizmo would pounce on it off that daggum toolbox and just and you hear him go and just get back there, eat that little burger and the fries, and then he'd come up a little while later with that toy in his mouth. Whatever the toy was, he'd have that toy in his mouth. He'd get up on that toolbox, and underneath that toolbox was a pile of chewed up McDonald's toys from Happy Meals because of old Gizmo. Uncle Bobby also poured whiskey on ground, let Gizmo drink whiskey, and then that dog would fart all night and stink up the place. It was oh mutt. They were two of a kind. We had an old German Shepherd that lived outside. We didn't know where he come from. We just called him Joe. We found out one time on accident Joe was a drug dog because the lady my Uncle Bobby was dating showed up with some marijuanas in her purse, and Joe went to work. With that. So we have no idea where Joe's German Shepherd come from, but he had a past life. He had a job at some point, and we're just doing our thing, you know. And I was just you just ever not had any direction, just living in the moment, just what happens tomorrow happens tomorrow. I had a '78 Trans Am. I'd run up and down the highway in. I'd see a little gal over at Tyler a couple times a week, and we would, I guess whatever they call it, hang out. You know, we were doing our thing, but nothing serious. Just somebody I'd run across, and we'd get together every once in a while. But I wasn't after nobody. I wasn't interested in nobody. I was just sort of trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, you know, and think, man, maybe I'll just stick around East Texas, hang out with Uncle Bobby, do work on hot tubs, you know. He didn't hit a peculiar thing like he was a hell of a songwriter, hell of a guitarist, but the only woman he's ever married to was my Aunt Tanya. My Aunt Tanya was a smoke show, right? When she was younger, when she was taller than him, it looked like he's walking around with a supermodel. She was a smoke show. She drove a 1979 Trans Am that was out of this world. Her family was kind of well off over in Longview and Kilgore. And my Aunt Tanya, uh, much like many of the women in Bobby's life, at some point had to deal with his philandering and running around. He boy couldn't keep it in his pants. He had a problem with it, and he'd get to run around on gals, and he got to run around on my Aunt Tanya, and well, as you can imagine, she didn't take it too great. In fact, she's downright unhappy with him, you know. Well, at the time, I'm just going to have to draw you a picture here, maybe, or I'll just try to outline this with my magic hands. Uh, if you imagine like you're looking at a map, and all this land on the map is the wrecking yard, and then here's me and my parents' house coming down the hill, and the shop's off in the middle of the wrecking yard. And then down here, there's a dirt road at the bottom. It's paved now, but and you go down that road, my granny's house is tucked down at this corner of the wrecking yard. And there's little trails and roads all through the wrecking yard, a big main road all through it. And Granny's house and them was down here, and then down this dirt road, Uncle Bobby and Aunt Tanya, that's where they lived. They had a little, I think maybe they had a little Jim Walters home or a trailer home, some kind of modular home. Well, Uncle Bobby shows up at home. I think maybe he's been drinking, and him and Aunt Tanya get a little bit of a row, get fussing, arguing, and he tells her he's done with her. And if you knew my story about getting run over by a car, it's like I did the same thing. But he tells her he's done with her, and he's running off some other gal or something. I don't know the details or the specifics. I was pretty young at the time, but he's gone. He ain't staying. He ain't putting up her crap no more. He's mad at him. She's mad at him for messing around. Well, I guess she found a gun somewhere. She grabbed a handgun, a 38 revolver, and went to chasing him throughout the house with a 38 revolver. So, like any man with common sense, he made his way for the door. But he got outside the front door and slammed the front door and realized he forgot his keys and turned around to open the door, and she shot him through the door. Bullet went straight up his finger, up through his hand, arm, destroyed his pointer finger. Now he's panicking because she's done fired on him, but he ain't got no keys. So what do? When your wife shoots you through the door and you ain't got your keys? You run to your daddy's house. So he runs down the dirt road, to get Papa and Granny's attention. It's kind of late at night. And they sit in the living room, and they had a big old walk-up porch, big old steel porch you had to climb up and get on to get to their front door. And they sit in that living room and watch television. And my papa was always just kind of a funny dude. Papa Clark, he liked to screw with people. He gave people nicknames, and he screwed with them nonstop. And one of his favorite things to do, always, that I can remember, was you would knock on Papa's door, and you'd hear him get up, get out of his chair, and just a few minutes later, you'd hear him knock back. And I don't remember how long it would go on, but it was irritating as piss, but he loved it. He thought it was funny. So that night, Uncle Bobby's run down there, hand bleeding, finger in pieces. And he goes, beat on Papa's door. Bap, 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 bap. He hears Papa get up out of his chair and walk over the door. Knock right back. Starts, Daddy, Tanya shot me. I need to go to the hospital, but my keys are in the house with her. Of course, Papa jumps up, yanks open the door. They get him down to the hospital. But as a result of that, if you can imagine, him and Tanya split up. They decided they couldn't be married no more, and probably good for both of them. They had he only had one kid. He had a daughter named Rashonda, who's amazing. She's my little cousin. I adore her deeply. I spent a lot of time with her as kids, and Tanya and Shonda are going to go back over to where they're living. But now they put all these pins in his finger and stuff. And even towards the end of his life, he couldn't bend that finger no more. So everything he did like this. If he was tuning a radio, he did like this. If he was jamming the music, if he was playing guitar, he played like this. And for a long time, I was real bad about doing everything like this because I learned how to work on so much shit from him that my fingers just did that because I thought, I'm telling you, this man bled over on me. He bled over on who I am. People, my family that doesn't get to see me often sees when they see me every time they're like, "Holy shit, you look like a little Bobby," And he was Bobby Jr., which is wild because his dad and me are not related because my mother had a different father. We found out, but I guess them McBride genes on the female side were strong because me and Bobby Jr. look a lot like the McBrides, and so he's got like a little broader nose where he had. He wrote a beautiful song about Aunt Tanya one time, and one of the great regrets of my life is I don't have any of his recordings from back then, and probably nobody does. But he had cassettes, and he would do his own harmonies and mix. He was doing Brian Wilson stuff in a. He was harmonizing and doing. He was a DJ at a nightclub on the weekends, and he would do his own self mixed mashups. And he had this. He would close the club with this Purple Rain mix that he had made, and just levitate them people every night. He's like East Texas Rick Rubin, just a savant when it came to music, and he knew he could pick trends. He could tell you what was going to be big. He had a really good ear, and he wrote this song for my Aunt Tanya called "If You Got Time" after she left him, you know, uh, which she definitely should have. But he wrote her this song called "If You've Got Time," and I wish any part of me could remember that it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever heard. I wish any part of me. He sang like Smokey Robinson, but also like Chris Stapleton. But like 20 years before there was a Chris Stapleton, he would sing like this, dude. I love Chris Stapleton, but when I listen to him now, I really just hear my Uncle Bobby because that was his style. He was bluesy, and the dude would just go. He could just do it, man. I really hate that I don't have any of that music. In fact, one time he went to Nashville. He went to Nashville one time, and I know what the girl. It's a girls thing. He's dating these two gals, Shelly and Shannon, both both beautiful, beautiful young women. This is after his divorce from my aunt, He's dating these two gals, and he's back and forth with both of them. But Shannon's dad is a music producer in Tennessee, up in Nashville, and he's kind of hot shit. And he's gonna have Bobby come up there and record and do stuff. And uh, but what happens is, and I don't remember the exact timeline of it, but I don't think just because of him, but Shelly takes her own life. Shelly shoots herself one night, and it screws him up big time, as you imagine it would. And he ended up going to Nashville and doing the whole thing, but he got all jacked up on drugs and he blew his opportunities and got really bad into the dope and blew so many opportunities. Ended up having to come back home to Texas and just work on hot tubs because he had a kid and he had a mouth to feed. And, you know, sometimes you don't get to do what you want to do, especially if you screw up your only opportunity. He wildly talented though. I remember one of my coolest things I remember about him predicting stuff is one night me and him was in that little Toyota pickup, and we when we would go places, he stopped at every truck stop, every little truck stop he'd stop at, and he would buy cassettes. He would buy music from pawn shops. Uh, he turned me on to so much music. He bought a Foreigner disc in a Foreigner cassette in a pawn shop one time because he found out I didn't know early Foreigner, and we just drove around all day fixing hot tubs and jamming out the Foreigner, and then we went back to Granny's house at the end of the night and drank and played Foreigner on the truck radio as loud as we could. We had us a good time, but forever a fan. What is this Amish Woodville? Just like on TV. I don't even know if that's mine. It might be. The bottle is Fubar. I don't know if that's any good for anything. We'll have to give it a shot. Test on something. One of my favorite things though is one night we were driving. We run down to Houston to deliver. We ran down to Houston. We installed a hot tub for uh, some rich couple living on Lake Houston. So we drove it. We delivered this hot tub, and we just take those little small, like 5 to 6 person hot tubs. Back then, we would just set them up on the bed of the Toyota, strap them off, put flags all over them, and take them where we were going to go. And that little Toyota toted. It was just a 2-wheel drive. You didn't get there fast, right? And good God Almighty, that little 4-cylinder could drink some gasoline. And sometimes you hit the brakes too hard, the engine would die. In fact, almost all the we'll get into that. We found out what that was, but it was a little trooper would just do it, and we'd have that radio going all the way there, and he'd be, he was always drumming on that steering wheel. That was his first instrument. He was a drummer. He was a drummer in the Leverage Chapel High School marching band. He was a drummer. He was a damn good drummer. He liked drumming. We're on the way back. Houston, it's late at night, or we're on the way back to Kilgore. It's late at night, and he pulls in this little truck stop and gets us a cold drink, gets him some cigarettes and a pack of Cools. And then he's over there with his glasses flipped up, and he's thumbing through the cassettes at the truck stop. What do they got? And he sees one, and he picks it out, and he looks at the cover, and he sort of reads the back of it. He walks over, he pays for it. We walk out there. I go, "What'd you get?" He goes, "I don't know. I never heard of this band." He said, "But I don't know. I just want to check it out." The album was called Mental Jewelry by a band called Live that just a handful of people knew who they were yet. Do you know who Live is? Live is Throwing Copper, huge rock stars, right? But when we get in this truck and we're driving, and I always remember he's jamming that album. What's that song? Man, I was listening to it last night. Where prayers go lay down to die, or where prayers lie by the riverside. He's just jamming it, dude. And they've got this raw, like gritty punk rock sound, a lot of drums, and he's just on that steering wheel. Boy, I was a Neil Peart of the Leverage Chapel marching band. They weren't ready for me, just beating this music, man, and he's just in it, and I'm in it too because we're having this cool moment listening to this new thing we hadn't heard, and it's raw and it's gritty. And I remember the trucks in front of us, he'd just get that little Toyota and tuck in behind him 18 wheeler so it'd save him some gas money. He wasn't interested in getting there in a hurry, especially if we had his little whiskey with us, whatever. Get a little little drink Coke. Go on, baby. You know, I ain't saying it's right. I'm just saying it's what happened. You feel free to judge me for sins of my past. I'm okay with it. I've dealt with a lot of them. But well, yeah, we're just rolling, man. And these 18 wheelers are in front of us, and that's back when a lot of them had the shiny, super shiny back doors, and you could kind of see the hazy reflection of your truck and the headlights in it, and I'm just watching our reflection rock back and forth in that little Toyota pickup and going up 59. We're just jamming this music. We get done with that album right when we're pulling through Henderson, Texas. We're pulling through the circle in Henderson, Texas when that album wraps up. And he said, those guys are going to be huge. He said that immediately. He said, you mark my words. Year, 2 years, those guys are going to be huge. They're going to be amazing. Nobody's ready for what they're doing. Nobody's ready for that guy's voice. Straight up told me that. It was like a year, 2 years later, boom, there's throwing copper. And suddenly every time you turn on the radio, all you hear is live. And he did that all the time, bro. He was on the Tone Loc before anybody in East Texas knew who the hell Tone Loc was. Uncle Bobby was running around bumping Funky Cole Medina in his Toyota, bro. He could call it a mile away. You know what I mean? He had an ear. He had an ear for what was good and what people were gonna like. Of course, Tone Loc turned out to be huge, you know. And he had his demons. Yeah, you know, he'd been down the drug route. In fact, that Toyota had bullet holes in it that we tried to fix with fiberglass, and then we just put stickers on them because one night, man, he owed some money about some drugs over in Longview, Texas. Decided he was just gonna put a killing on him. And I'm gonna tell you this. I know this is the wildest thing about how my Uncle Bobby died. Is like I know at least 5 people that spent a good significant amount of time and planning deciding to put a killing on him and did not succeed. And then he just dies on his own, without even calling them. These guys out there still mad at it. He's something else, man. You just don't know. He I mean, you want to hear how country this goes? How deep this goes? He accidentally killed a dude. Got in an argument with a dude at a bar in Kilgore, and the guy's dad got involved, who was in his 60s. But he was a big old boy. I mean, he wasn't like he was some little old thing that got beat up on. He was a big old boy, and he decided to get involved in it. And Uncle Bobby told him to stay out of it, and the guy took a swing at him. And Bobby popped him in the mouth, and the guy had a heart attack and died. You talk about screwing. He was all scared. He don't want to fight nobody after that. That'd make you rethink everything you do. And he was tough. You know, I always remember that him turning me on to live. He did it with he educated me, man. About music, Foreigner, Frampton, Merle Haggard. He knew it all. He'd say Merle Haggard's the greatest songwriter of the 20th century. He'd tell me that all the time. Merle Haggard, greatest songwriter, most prolific songwriter of the 20th century. And if you go look at the man wrote music nonstop. It's Merle's great, you know. My nickname, he called me Pooh Bear. And everybody at Jenna's bar and everybody in my life at that time, they all pretty much on that side of the family over there called me Pooh Bear because that's what he called me. And it was kind of sad because we were so close when we were young and kids. And it was one time when he gave me the nickname, he said, I'm going to call you Pooh Bear because you're just like a big old gentle bear, because I was real soft hearted. And he said, and I'm like Christopher Robin, and I know one day I'm going to outgrow you. And it made me really sad when he told me that. But then it happened the obvious way. The opposite way. I'm the one that outgrew him, you know. And but either way, but he called me Pooh Bear. Pooh Bear was my nickname. When I walked in that bar, like the Norm. Hey, Norm. I walked that bar, everybody, Pooh Bear, and there's all his biker buddies called me Pooh Bear. They all called me Pooh Bear. I shoot pool in the pool tournament. I shot pool with Pooh Bear. You know, I was behind on my tab. Here come Mama Harris, Mama K. Hey, Pooh Bear, you need to pay his tab. Years after all this happened, I walked back into that bar like 14 years after all this time period happened and realized right when I walked in, Mama K's like, "Oh my God, how have you been? By the way, you still have a tab." And I still had a $14 tab I owed her at that bar. I had to pay her right. I gave her a 20. Apologized profusely. Mama K was good to me. She was a nice lady. She was tough, but she was good to me, man. He'd tell me about Merle Haggard. We'd be driving around that little Toyota. We'd laugh. We'd be listening to some Merle Haggard song. We hit the brakes and the Toyota would die. He'd say, "Stop too fast, truck die." And then he'd go back to singing Merle Haggard. And then he'd tell me, "Pooh Bear, you can't be listening to Merle Haggard all the time. You keep listening to Merle Haggard while you're this age, you're gonna want to start living like him, acting like him." And he was always giving me the good advice. The drunker he got, the better the advice got. He'd start out, "Hey boy, you get your little money, just all you need to do is buy dirt. They ain't gonna make no more dirt. They can make more of everything else. They ain't gonna make no more dirt. You buy dirt." I was too young and dumb to understand what he was talking about. I didn't know he meant real estate. I thought I was supposed to go fill up the truck bed or something else. But that's how you get. Don't you stray around no women. He strayed around the women all the time. He taught me how to talk to women. He pulled me out of my shell. I just wasn't. I didn't have that thing, whatever. And he had to teach me how to. He's like, "Man, you got to talk to the prettiest girl in the bar. You got to make her laugh." And he said, "Even if she's not the one you're trying to get with, just make them. If you make them laugh, they're gonna be about you." And I knew how to make people laugh. I just hadn't used it like that before. I didn't know use it like that. He's got taught me how to put on masks and how to be gregarious when you need to be gregarious and help other people have a good time. All right, we got one random glove, but he brought me out of my shell. I was a pretty shy dude still, especially with girls. I didn't know. I just thought, I was still kind of Pentecostal minded, and that I thought I was just supposed to meet a girl and we were supposed to immediately get married and start having babies. I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing, but Uncle Bobby showed me that was not the way, bro. He meet all the girls, but he would tell me, if you find one to treat you right, don't ever go behind her, man, because if you only get one or two chances of that. If you find the one, he would tell me that all the time, man. Sometimes now, especially because I drive a lot late at night, coming back from gigs and stuff. Because if I'm within 3 or 4 hours of the house, I come home because I like to be here when my kids wake up. I like to be in my house. So, no, it's not over 4 hours, I start getting drowsy and stuff at night. So I don't do it. But a lot of times I'll be driving back from gigs late at night now and my little Mazda burning a number like a do a little toke and cruise home from the gig in the middle of the night. I love that Mazda because it's invisible. Cops don't even look at it. They just don't care. They've already seen 50 other dark gray Mazdas that day. They don't give two craps about the hillbilly and the Mazda going down the highway. Love that little car. And everything else I ever had was either ostentatious or stuck out like a sore thumb. It feels good to be invisible sometimes. And on the highway at night, it's a good time to be invisible. Laws, you know. Set that cruise control, big thing. And I'll be coming home from gig, get behind a line of 18-wheelers where there ain't nowhere to pass. You just kind of got to tuck in and cruise with them for a little bit. Road construction, what have you. And I always get excited when it's one of them ones that's, I don't know anything about trucks, but when it's one of them trailers that's got the shiny back doors. And almost every time without fail, I will put mental jewelry on and I'll drum the shit out of that steering wheel. And I'll say, well, you just don't know. I was Neil Purr of the Liberty Chapel High School marching band. I like those moments, It's when me and him, it's when we chat. I probably wouldn't be doing stand up comedy I remember the first time he ever saw me do stand-up comedy. He loved Richard Pryor so much he could do all of Richard Pryor's routines. That's how I was first introduced to Richard Pryor, was him doing his routines, and then me later finding out they were Richard Pryor. And first time he saw me do stand-up, right when I got on stage, he goes, "I watched every move you made. You had them in your hand. You took them up. You brought them down. You took it. It's just like when I was a D." He was so excited. He loved performers. His kid's an amazing singer. That girl's got a set of pipes on her, blow your doors off, man. Hell of a singer. He loves performers. He always told me and her we were special. We're different. We're special. And he made us feel that way. You know, maybe he wasn't always the best guy, and he maybe always didn't handle his responsibilities the best way. Well, not maybe. He didn't. He made me and her feel like we were actually special. We believed it. I still do. I wear his ashes in a little necklace. It's a little, just like a little necklace, like you'd keep medicine or some other kind of powder in. And it's got a little guitar emblem. And I wear his ashes in there when I go on stage because I like to take him with me. I talked about him a lot in my first special. My new special I'm writing right now, I talked about him again. And I tell a story about that necklace, about losing that necklace in a crowded nightclub and being worried somebody was going to snort Uncle Bobby, and me having to run to the microphone and tell him, don't snort Uncle Bobby. You ain't never coming back down. That man was, guarantee you his ashes will get you high. You know, like, don't snort Uncle Bobby. You ain't coming back. Yeah, I was telling you that Toyota we would, oh, sorry to spit all over everybody. I was telling you that Toyota we would, you hit the brakes too hard, it would die. And it always kind of did that, but then it started doing it like every time. And, every once in a while, it's not a big deal, but you can get by, you can figure it out. But it was happening like every freaking time. And so we decided we would. So the first thing we did, this is how we solved the Toyota problem. This is like the kind of life we were living right at the time. One day after work, Friday, we decided not to go to the bar, and we go to this little mechanic shop over in Kilgore. There's this black dude's mechanics, friends of my Uncle Bobby. Uncle Bobby could blur the lines better than anybody knew. He didn't say racist stuff, and he hung out with black folks all the time, and he went to the black beer joints, and he went back and forth across the lines of that little small town with nary a care or worry, and got along with there. He was just one of those. He was very affable, very charming. Everybody wanted to hang out with him. He was a fun guy. So we go over to his buddy's shop, and he tells his buddy what the truck's doing. His buddy goes, "You need a brake booster." He said, "You got a brake booster. Some Toyotas very bad about the brake booster where it comes through the firewall. There being a leak right there, and it releasing pressure, losing vacuum into the cabin or something like that, and it'd make that thing die, at a red light." So he says, "All right." So me and him leave the mechanic shop. We go shoot a pool tournament at another little bar. I think maybe at the VFW. We go play a pool tournament. Uncle Bobby wins the pool tournament, gets himself about $150, which is a good night, good pool tournament in Kilgore, Texas. Next morning, Saturday, we get up. We're going to fix the Toyota on Saturday. This is how we fix the Toyota. We get up, we go get in that little Toyota pickup, and we drive off into Kilgore, and we stop at the liquor store. Because it's Saturday, he needs a little extra for Sunday. He goes ahead and gets himself the good size bottle of Yukon Jack to get you to Monday size bottle. Got to prepare in Texas. Can't get no good liquors unless you know the right people. Now he had some people that sold after hours and stuff that he'd go visit. But he got him to get you to Monday size bottle of Yukon Jack, and we do us a snort, have us a cool cigarette, and we drive over to the Murphy's Parts store in Kilgore, Texas. We go into Murphy's parts store, and Uncle Bobby talks shit with those guys for 30 minutes about everything under the sun that ain't a brake booster. One time, asked him what the brake booster's going to cost. They tell him what the brake booster's going to cost. Good God Almighty, boy! Man, y'all ain't going to kiss me first? Y'all ain't. You just gonna drop a number like that on me? No, damn. You know. Then he talks shit with those guys for 30 minutes about everything in the sun, everything going on in Kilgore, who's playing guitar for who, that kind of mess. Then we leave. We leave Murphy's Auto Parts after a good 45-minute investment with no brake booster. I don't care because we do another snort in the parking lot. And by snort, I mean drink, like that's what they used to call it, a little snort of whiskey. We just throw you a slug back and take you a drink of that Coca-Cola and puts a little sparkle on your day. Then we go to the ABC Auto Parts, Longview. ABC Auto Parts has got it's like big auto parts place. I think they're still there. In fact, I see the one in Henderson every time I drive up 259. That's one of the first places I ever worked. Was that ABC Auto Parts Henderson? So he has a buddy that pretty much runs the Longview, or at the time ran the Longview store. So we go over and hang out in ABC Auto Parts, and he gets his buddy to look up this part for him. Damn, boy. Damn, y'all high. Damn. I can't believe it. Man, as long as we've been friends. You tell me that's the best you can do for me? So he's trying to barter on this part. And then we hang out there and we talk shit with those guys for half an hour. Once again, we leave without the brake booster. I don't care because we're going to get us another little snort. This time it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We still ain't got a brake booster and we're about half in the bag. Now we go to a little junkyard off 59 by where the Rio used to be. There used to be a little junkyard over there. And we go over to the junkyard. Well, what y'all want for that brake booster? Oh, Bobby, we ain't got one. I got a new one I can sell you, but I ain't got an old one. How much you want for that new one? Oh, damn. And then we sit there and bullshit with those guys a minute. Now it's 5 or 6 o'clock. Still in Kilgore, over close to Longview. Still got to go back out to Lever's Chapel and fix the brake booster on the Toyota. Ain't got no brake booster. Now he drives out in the country, out past Lever's Chapel, way off down Sexton Road, out in the middle of nowhere. And there's a little group of houses, 6, 7 houses, a whole bunch of junk cars. All around these houses, no predictable kind of order. There is a dirt driveway off into the main center of all the houses. Bunch of kids. It's all black folks. Bunch of kids just out in the middle of nowhere. They kind of got their own little, I don't know, about 6, like I said, 5 or 6 houses, like a compound going on. And we get out of the truck and we go up there. His buddies hanging around. They got a little fire going. They're bulling around. They got a little erected shop they're hanging out in. He tells these guys what he needs. And yeah, Bobby, I got you, bub. I got you. One of them comes back out with this old brake booster off Toyota. I don't know how old the brake booster is. I don't think it's that old. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. I don't know. I ain't seen a Toyota 1 out there around these houses, but here we are with the Toyota pickup brake booster. They tell him, I don't know, something cheap, 30, 40 bucks at the time. And then him and one of the guys goes off around the side of the shop and they talk about some other stuff. And that guy gives him a bag of some, probably like some prayer meeting supplies. That's what I would guess, all the supplies you need for a good prayer meeting. And he buys a little bottle of something clear. Off these guys ain't got no label, and they give us the brake booster. And now we leave their place, we do a little snort out of that clear bottle. And, whoo, son, well, that's different. That you feel the inside of your testicles burn when you drink that stuff. Woo! Got a little fire on it. We leave those guys, and we start. He tells me to drive, but we're out in the country. I know where we're going. It's just back roads to my grandmother's. It's just back roads to the house, mostly oil lease roads. He's like, "You drive, Pooh Bear. I got to make a couple phone calls." He pulls out his little flip phone, and I'm driving them, and he starts calling all of his buddies and rounding up a party. Basically, I need beer and ice, and I already got whiskey. I got this. I got party supplies. Call up so and so, old gal. Tell her to bring some of her friends. And he called up one of his other buddies. It was a butcher. Hey man, snag us some good meat. We gonna throw a barbecue tonight. My Papa Clark's barbecue was phenomenal. It was legendary. Had the sauce he made himself, everything, and his brisket was out of this world. But he had this smoker, this old homemade smoker he'd built in the front yard. That I think they moved over to my Aunt Janet's house or something at some point because she wanted it. But it probably weighed about 3 tons. It was all made out of plate steel. He had a bunch of plate steel out in the wrecking yard. He made all kind of crap out of that he scored somewhere. And this thing was made out of plate steel, and it looked like a church with a steeple. And you could put a bunch of wood, and we always had a bunch of pecan around there. East Texas is flush with pecan. Some oak, mostly pecan. And Uncle Bobby gets all these people bringing us stuff, right? They're all coming. They even got a buddy, a bunch of guitar players. They're going to bring speakers. They're going to hang out. And then we go to the house, and he jacks the Toyota up. No, he didn't jack it up. He opens the hood on the Toyota, sets a brake booster on the hood of the Toyota, sets his toolbox on a little table there by the Toyota. And everybody gets there, and guys start playing music. Uncle Bobby starts cooking barbecue, and a couple of his buddies grab the tools and start changing the booster on the Toyota. I go over there and help them. But I don't really do nothing. They're doing all the work. We got guitar players. We got music. We partied into the night. And next day, we got up, went fix hot tubs with a Toyota that didn't die when you hit the brakes. The man, he had an interesting problem-solving algorithm, to say the least. But he taught me how to survive. He was a survivor. He would make it through some unlikely situations. I told you all them fools wanted to kill him. Him and his little Toyota truck run around with bullet holes in it. He didn't care. He worked for the same hot tub place forever and a day, and the reason was Aunt Tanya's brother owned it. And my Aunt Tanya's brother is a guy named Darren Griffith, and Darren's about as good a human being as a person could hope to have, I think, as a friend, because he sure put up with a lot of crap out of my Uncle Bobby over the years, and always kept him in a job. Always made sure he was making money for Shawnee for the stuff he needed to make money for. And they'd screw each other around, and but Darren was good people. Darren kept my uncle in a job for all those years, and I know he looked after him more than he had to, and truly cared about him. I think they were really very close friends. Well, it's all still together. Snake bite kit. I never use it for snake bites. I use it for spider bites because spider bites jack me up. But you get you one of these bite and sting kits with a little plunger. The spider bites you, and get on it, suck that venom out. You won't get most of the time won't get no infection. But I keep these in all my vehicles because me and spiders have a bad history. I got one out here sitting on the shelf over there. They're cheap. You used to be able to get them at Walmart for like $14. All right, Darren owned Rainbow Pool and Spa in Longview. Darren gave me a job. I worked for Darren for a while through Uncle Bobby, and There's some weird stuff in there. I think I need bikes on the bayou. You know, Outlaw Dave, Slade Ham. Well, Bobby's just a dude that he could do all the things, man. This time I spent with him during this time was real pivotal for me because I learned what I did. I didn't want to live like this anymore. Like he was just sort of surviving, and that wasn't. I wanted to go do something more than that, and I didn't particularly like working on hot tubs. It's kind of fun to work on hot tubs. You know, they're not really too mechanically difficult. You know, as long as you got some PVC fittings and a can-do attitude, you can sort most problems out. And he had an eye for electronics. This thing he used to do when I was a kid, he would go around them rich neighborhoods in Longview where he put all them hot tubs in on trash day. And if they threw them RC cars out, which were high dollar back then, them radio control cars, he would collect them all in his truck, and then he'd go over to Radio Shack and figure out what parts they need and fix them. And me and him would play with them radio control cars all the time. We had a good time, man. He always had a couple of them, you know, that he was messing with. He got me into, he collected Matchbox car, Hot Wheels cars, and we were real big into that together. He was a big kid. He loved them mini trucks, though. Always had him one. Didn't matter. Had them all. I said, we'd go to the bar, he'd get too lit, and I'd drive him home on them old lease roads, you know. And he'd help, but he was a guy I could talk to about stuff I couldn't always talk to about. You know, I was getting in trouble then, and I was terrified of my dad, so I didn't call my dad when I got in trouble. I was terrified of him. One thing I've tried to make sure to be different with my kids, I've tried to make sure they're not scared of me because I want them to call me when they're in help. They're going to screw up. They're going to get in trouble. I heard somebody say this the other day. They're going to screw up. They're going to get in trouble, but when they do, I want them to call me. I won't be like, oh, Dad's gonna kill me. You know, I won't be like, Dad will come help me. He's gonna be pissed at me, but he's gonna come help me. And Uncle Bobby was like the guy I could call about stuff like that, you know, that kind of thing, because I knew he'd find a way to help me. He, I went to jail about this time period, not because of him or anything, but I remember calling him with my one phone call from jail because I didn't know who the hell else to call at that time because it was so bad. But I had right before I decided to get out of Houston, I had a bunch of speeding and racing tickets in that Trans Am over in Deer Park, Texas, and I don't know, it was $500 or $600 worth of fines. And look at this Wolverine gas station nightmare. Woo! What in God's name? Oh, I love knives. All kinds of silly ones. This is definitely a gas station knife. Anyways, I got these speeding tickets and stuff over at Deer Park, and I don't really want to spend the money to fix them, but I figure I ain't got no work for a little while. What I can do is go over there and sit my ass in city jail, and they give you at the time they give you $100 a day against your fines, and it was 4 or 5 days. I fines would be taken care of, bruh. No money needed. And I drove over to the Deer Park jail, and I parked my Trans Am in the city jail parking lot right there, where it wouldn't be towed. And I walked in and turned myself in. They processed me in very quickly. It's a small community. And so, Mr. Longmire, if you're willing to work, we'll give you $200 a day against your fines. Well, what the hell else I can do? Sit in a little jail cell all day, you know, stare at the wall. I was like, well, yeah, what kind of work you got? And he's like, well, our mechanic, is doing all the warranty recalls on the Ford Crown Vics in our cop car shop where they worked on the cop cars. And it's just, and I knew about the repair is when they had the plastic intakes that were cracking and they were all getting warrantied out and recalled. And so he's backed up and he could use some help. And if you're willing to go to work with him, we'll give you $200 a day. It was also, I think it was a holiday weekend, so I got an extra $200 a day on those fines, which is a weird benefit of going to jail on a holiday day. So if you're gonna go to jail on a holiday, so you get double time. I don't know if they still do that. Don't quote me. This is, 20 something years ago. But they took me over there to the auto shop, and the guy that was the mechanic there at the time, he's a good old boy, old dude. And once he figured out I knew how to work on cars a little bit, he was handy dandy, just let me go to town and do stuff. And he would give me cigarettes and go get me Whataburger for lunch. He was a cool guy. Wasn't a bad gig. I just had to do a couple, and because I was getting double money, it was only going to be 2 or 3 days, which was even better. I'd also just gotten my income tax returned, and I had some income tax money in my bank account. I was feeling pretty good, a little boost at the end of the year. They let me out of the Deer Park jail, and this is how I went to jail one time twice. Because they let me out of that Deer Park jail, and I started walking out to go to my Trans Am where my car was parked, and this fella pulls up in a black Tahoe, and he gets out, and he looks like Walker Texas Ranger. He's got the blue jeans and snakeskin cowboy boots and a badge on his pocket and a pistol on his hip, big belt buckle, button-up shirt, shades, the whole thing. And he comes walking right up to me. He says, "Are you Jerry Longmire?" And I said, "No, sir. He's in there getting his stuff." And he said, "Mr. Longmire, I've had your file a long time." And I was like, "Why the hell did you make me lie to you just now, dude? You know everybody lies to cops." And he said, "Mr. Longmire, I've got an arrest warrant for you on charges of theft." And I was like, "Boy, I sure can't remember stealing nothing and getting caught." That's what he tells me. He said they're in North Harris County. He's going to take me over to North Harris County Jail. Leave my Trans Am in the parking lot. Now I'm off to another jail. He ain't talking to me much. He said he's had my file for a couple years. Been trying to track me down. Something about a hot check. Man, I hadn't read the check in how long? I don't know what this is about. But I figure I just got to write it out to, there's some cool needles. I got to write it out just to, I got to write it out just to find out what's happening. So I get over North Harris County Jail, which is a much rougher jail at this time than Deer Park. I wouldn't have turned myself into North Harris County Jail. So, starters, I'm one of the few fellas of my complexion in this cell with all these dudes when they process me in and take my shoelaces and give me a jumpsuit and tell me I'm due in court the next morning. I'm going to see the judge the next morning. I'm terrified. These guys are scary as shit. The first thing, you get in there, you sit down, they give you a little peanut butter sandwich. And some guy said, "Hey, man, you kind of look like Big Pun." Time my head was shaved. And I thought, hell yeah, because I thought Big Pun was a wrestler. So I was like, hell yeah, dude. Better leave me alone. You don't know who you're messing with now, dog. And these other guys, what happened? What'd you get hung up on? And all I knew was the theft part. And, but you don't. I was like, man, these guys think I'm tough. I'm scared, So like, I said, I robbed a liquor store with my bare hands. I was in the liquor store, would get me a cold drink, and the dude behind the counter called me white trash. We got in an argument, and I reached over and bounced him off the wall and snatched money out of the register and took off. I was just so pissed off I didn't think about it. But I whooped the fire out of that dude. Called me trash. Yeah. puff that chest. Guys at jail don't care about that. I know that now. I'm 20 years old. I'm an idiot. I have no clue what to do. I ain't never been in jail before. And I've been in nice Deer Park jail. Deer Park jail's fine. I like Deer Park jail. You get to work on cop cars and get some Whataburger. It's not a bad time. A little cold at night when you're sleeping, but it's not like North Harris County. That's a different jail. I'm terrified. I feel like I might not make it to the court next day. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I was up all night. Anxiety. Dude, there was a dude that was kind of small, white dude over here, and they come around. They brought us dry bologna sandwiches, and I go, "Damn, I love bologna." And I guess this dude was kind of scared of me because he gave me his bologna sandwich. He's like, "Oh, you can have mine." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right." You know, when you retch over a counter with fire, you give me a bologna sandwich. I ate that bologna sandwich. I ate that dude's bologna sandwich. Then they come in there and they handcuff us all together. They're gonna take us to see the judge. They march us in that courtroom, all handcuffed together. And as each person gets up, the judge reads out what they're in trouble for to the letter. Now I'm getting a little nervous. All I know really is theft, but I didn't told these guys I didn't rob the liquor store. I didn't know we were all going to get our shit read out in front of each other. I might have told a different story, you know. I just said I don't know and not been an idiot, but I didn't. I told these guys this story. And they get up to me. The judge reads down, looks at his paper, looks up at me. He says, Jerry Wayne Longmire Jr., you have charges of theft of service by hot check of Tanya and Jeff's wedding night, a porn video that I had rented from this little Palestinian video shop and lost it or forgot to give it back or whatever when I moved. And I wrote this dude a check for it. The check bounced, and they got me on a hot check for when he read out the name of Tanya Harding's sex tape. Them inmates howled. They hit the floor. They were done. They had to start hollering at him, get him back in line. And I'm mortified now. I'm a dead man. We go back to this cell. I'm dead beat, bro. Like, oh, what did you just do to me? What did I just do to me? It's what I just did to me. I just did it to me. You dummy in your mouth. You idiot. The judge goes, well, been here this many days and the fine was this much. We're going to go with time served and release you. Said, oh. He said, do you have any questions, Mr. Longmire? And I said, just one, sir. He said, what is it? I said, can you release me right now? Can I go to a different room than them to change my clothes? They're howling again. They're howling again. The judge goes, I'll see what I can do. And I'm like, and then I have to sit there while everybody else is charged. Everybody else's charges are way scary, bro. Okay? These guys are beating people up. They're robbing people. They're stabbing people. They're shooting. Their charges are way scarier than mine. Even a little dude that was scared of me, dude that coughed up his bologna sandwich. I know he's got a vendetta. You don't give up a bologna sandwich. He's coming for me. And he like stabbed somebody. Oh, dear Jesus. And Angel Mercy shows up and uncuffs me from them people, takes me to a separate room. Let's put my clothes on and process out. And I've never been so happy in my life. And I owe that judge. If I ever run across him, I don't even have a clue what his name is, but I'll know him when I see him if he's still around. And bro, the first one's on me, dog, because you did me a solid there. Yeah, that's who I am at this time period. I'm the guy that goes to jail for renting a porn tape and bouncing a hot check for it. I'm glad I spent this time around Uncle Bobby at this time because he dials me back in. He pulls me back like, hey man, look, Pooh Bear, you can't live like this all the time, man. He used to tell me all the time, Pooh Bear, you ain't got to have a good time all the time. Sometimes it's just time to do stuff. Sometimes it's just time to chill. You can't go out every night. Can't. He would reel me in, man. He'd reel me in, and we'd get up next morning. Go make us a little bit of money. He mostly paid me in cool cigarettes and a little bit of cash here and there. I remember right around that time. Well, first of all, the timing. So the on the Toyota, we was running down a road, and the timing J guides on the 22 REs after about 1986, 1987, they plastic, and they'll fail, and they fail. Sometimes the timing chain will eat into a water jacket on the block. That's exactly what happened. Uncle Bobby's Toyota. I can't tell you how many miles is on it. No, Toyota fanboys probably assume 500,000. I don't know. He bought these trucks cheap, little tote the notes and old dudes he knew, junkyard trucks. Sometimes he had to do a little work on them, get them going. I don't know how many miles on it. The odometer had been broke ever since I knew anything about this truck. We hadn't had a speedometer in years. Going down the road, time chain broke, ate up in the water jack. There's people there, oh, you can't ruin a 22R. You can ruin a 22RE. You can ruin anything else. Ate that little motor up. And when we went out to them group of dudes, that little compound out in the middle of nowhere, we pulled up over there, and they had a couple little pickups out there. And one of them was a Mitsubishi Mighty Max. And Bobby was wheeling and dealing back and forth with them. Finally said, somebody bring me a tape measure. They brought him a tape measure, and he measured his little toolbox. And his little toolbox would fit right in the back of that Mitsubishi Mighty Max. So he said, all right, I'll take this one. And I think he gave him about $400 or $500 for that Mitsubishi Mighty Max. Didn't have no air conditioner, and the hood was all faded out. And they kept that Toyota. I think when I left him to go back to Louisiana. I decided to go back to Louisiana and try to get my life together. My parents were on my ass about doing something with myself, and in the meantime, I had blown the transmission out of that Trans Am. I broke the input shaft on that old Trans Am transmission, and it was parked over at my Uncle Larry's house, and I didn't really have money to rebuild it at the time. And but my Uncle Larry was going to help me whenever I got a little money together. And then in the meantime, Uncle Bobby had taken me over to a little lot guy he knew in Longview, and that dude sold me a 1968 Datsun. Was it a 620, 720, something pickup? Well, you talk about sounding like a beer can. It had a Craftsman ratchet welded to the shifter arm, so it had a ratchet shifter. Had plush green carpet in it, and we've had a bunch of roach clips hung on the back of the seat, and it was spray painted camouflage. I think I paid $600-700 for it, and it was a good running little old pickup. And I decided to go back to Louisiana, try to get a little better job out there. The oil field was kind of picking up, and so I drove at the day I left though. He was, Pooh Bear, go out there to that glove box of that Mitsubishi, get you a couple packs of them cools. I got some cash for you. Now I drove that little Datsun. I moved to Louisiana. Ended up going to work for the prison system. That's God Almighty, that's a whole pack of stories for another day. I ended up working in Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary. Then after that, I went back to offshore work in NDT, but had a moment of indecision where I just didn't want to do that stuff anymore. And look, it looks like I was right because eventually I left it. Didn't turn out to be what I was always going to do. Bobby Clark influenced two stand-up comedians from the state of Texas. At one point, one of his helpers, one of the guys that worked with him every day delivering hot tubs, working on hot tubs, was a young man in Longview, Texas named Rodney Carrington, who was just growing up in Longview at the time and was going to later grow on to be one of the biggest stand-up comedians ever come out of that. You know, I mean, his name's huge. He's one of my. I've always adored his work. I find him to be one of the funniest people on the planet. And also, when I watch him, I see a lot of my Uncle Bobby there, because that man was just, you wanted to be like, you got around him. There's definitely I see some stuff. You know, not everything. He's definitely his own. You know, Rodney's definitely his own artist and incredibly gifted, incredibly amazing performer. He's one of my favorites that I've ever seen. Pretty dirty, but I like some dirty comedy, even though I don't do it. But yeah, man, old Rodney worked. Him and Bobby worked together to live in hot tubs for years. In fact, I think Rodney and Darren are still buddies to this day. You know, but yeah, that's kind of wild, right? This dude rubbed off on two of us some kind of way. First time Rachel met Bobby, she knew where my moves come from. This is the funniest thing, man. My Uncle Bobby and his girlfriend Susan at the time had come down to visit my mom and dad down in at the time they was living out there off Highway 99 in Richmond, Texas, Pecan Grove, Waterside Estates. That's what it was, not Pecan. Um, Me and Rachel very early in our dating, but we were together, and I was going to do a show that night at the. No, we were just going over there to hang out. We were just going over. I wanted Rachel to have some time around my mom and dad, get to know them. Of course, me and my mom talked all the time. She already knew all about Rachel. Now my Uncle Bobby's going to be there. I'm going to get to see him. A little more of a grown up. Got my life together. Then found my gal. I'm excited for him to meet her. Bro, not even 2 minutes into meeting her, he's leaning over. He'd do this. I'm just gonna move this. We don't even need this. I ain't doing nothing with it. But he'd do this thing where he'd lean up on the table and give you a little wink, you know. And he did that to Rachel, and she started laughing out loud because I do that to her all the time. And she's like, "All right, I know where you got that move." Like, and she always told me that night. She goes, "Meeting your uncle that night was so wild. Seeing the way he was flirting with his girlfriend." And she goes, I was just like, "Okay, I know who made you this way." It's like looking in a mirror, man. And I get more like him the older I get. Luckily, I didn't get quite all the bad, the crazy stuff. And I feel like I've worked very hard to be a good father and not make some of the same mistakes he did that he was constantly warning me about. He was doing them and telling me all the time, "Don't do this. Little brother, don't do it. Poop Bear, don't do it." And he had two or three of them old Toyotas, a couple of Mazdas. He's the reason I love mini trucks. A lot of you think I don't like them because I make fun of them, but I make fun of things I love. And I love little mini trucks. A little Datsun. That's a maybe we'll talk about the Datsun sometime. I worked as a prison guard in Angola, and I had that little Datsun for a while, and got in a little bit of trouble with it, hanging out in Louisiana swamps and chasing gals. It's hard to chase a girl in a camouflage Datsun. It's easier to sneak up on them though. But we worked on that Toyota constantly. I'll tell you that. I wrenched on that Toyota. I can look at a 22 RE. Most of the time I can hear a 22 RE run and tell you what's going on with it. Like I spent so much time wrenching on the engine, him, jacking with carburetor, jacking with just keeping a little booger going. Reliable. I got a lot of good experience that time where I was working on the Trans Am a lot, trying to keep the Trans Am running. Me and Bobby are always dragging old junk, and I was learning how to work on hot tubs and plumbing systems, and Uncle Bobby would tackle plumbing jobs, and he'd teach me about that stuff, and just whatever he needed my help with. He taught me a lot of electronics and computers and stuff like that. Like he was into that stuff. My dad was into computers before a lot of people's dad was, but Uncle Bobby was surefire. One of the first people I know. Uh, he helped teach me Atari Basic when I had one of my first computers was an Atari computer, an Atari XL computer, back when they actually did that. And Uncle Bobby helped me learn Atari Basic on that computer. So he had figured it out. He had taught himself some stuff. He had a Tandy 1000. One of the first computers I ever saw in real life in somebody's house was a Tandy 1000. Uncle Bobby had got from done some wheeling and dealing with the Radio Shack. Got his hands on. I lost contact with him later in life, and it was my own fault. But he got accused of some pretty nefarious shit, and it was hard to ignore him. And I don't think I ever really thought he done it, and I still don't think, and it doesn't look like the courts did either, because that's not. They went after him, but then he ended up going to prison for something else entirely, some other stuff he'd done. But he had 4 or 5 DWIs. He he got mad and assaulted a deer decoy on the side of the road one night and got locked up by the game warden. He saw the deer decoy on the side of the road on the way home from the bar and stopped and tried to feed the deer some peanuts from the bar, and the deer wouldn't eat the peanuts. So Bobby hauled off, punched the piss out of the deer, and got back in his truck and drove off back on the highway. A couple nights later, they had him on camera coming home from the bar. He sees that deer on the side of the road again, and he just veers off the road and runs that son 50 over. Drives off home. Boy, he's something else. That man was a menace. Uh, God, he played guitar like nothing you ever heard in your life. Oh, I wish I had some of his recordings so bad. I wish I knew anybody in the world that had music by him on cassette or anything from the old days. If y'all ever run across anybody that says they got recordings by a guy named Bobby Eugene Clark Jr., you let me know. I will pay for them. I would dearly love to hear his voice sing again. I lost touch with him when he went to prison. We weren't communicating. I had small kids and didn't want that around my kids. After my mother died, I was so angry at my grandmother and that side of the family that I just kind of cut them all off. And that's not fair, but it's what I did. Absolutely unfair. Cut my Aunt Janet off, cut my Aunt Barbara off, cut them all off. I just didn't want to talk to none of them. I was so angry. It took me a long time to get over it. Uncle Bobby got released, went home, lived with his daughter, and I don't know what all he was trying to do, but he had had some heart problems while he was in jail, and I don't think he was taking care of himself. And he'd gotten pretty overweight and was still struggling with the heart stuff, and had a heart attack, and he died the day after my 42nd birthday, July 9th. That's when all the bad shit happens. Anyway, I still wear him around my neck. I take him to shows with me. And I'm telling you, he is the biggest part of who shaped me. A lot of my storytelling stuff definitely comes from my father's people, but there's a whole bunch that comes from Bobby. We used to get drunk every night and watch Sling Blade. That was our movie. We get drunk, come home from the bar. Guarantee you the next thing we're going to do, we're going to put on Sling Blade, baby. We're going to watch Sling Blade. We knew every line in that movie. We'd talk like Carl for months on end. Boy, I couldn't talk to girls before him. He taught me how to just talk to girls. And years later, I had these young dudes working for me. None of them talk to girls. I try to pass along some of the same lessons Uncle Bobby taught me about having some confidence in yourself and know that most girls just want to be noticed and talked to, or most people the opposite sex just want to be noticed, talked to. You got to gush, pay a compliment, and ask them something interesting about themselves, something they're wearing, something they're doing. Ask them if they're into something. Have an interesting. Ask everybody interesting questions. I have a thing about that, and Uncle Bobby put it to me in. Sometimes I just meet people in public and ask them weird stuff. You know, just I saw it one time in a meme and it made me laugh because I've been doing it for years. But I can tell you how many times I've been stuck in an elevator and somebody start making small talk, and I'll just be like, "Hey, what's your favorite color?" It literally, so many people do not have an answer for that. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. It's the funniest thing. Do it the next time you're stuck in an elevator with somebody. They start making small talk. Ask them what their favorite color is. Some people will have an answer for you. Red. They will just hit you with it. But more times than not, I've been walking through a parking garage and somebody hollered from across the. It was red. It was red because they couldn't think of it in the moment. I like asking people interesting questions, but Bobby would do that all the time. He would just walk up, girl, and ask her anything. Didn't care. Just start chatting her up. Even well into his older age, beautiful women just adored him. He could just get where he wanted to go. Transformative period in that little truck, riding around that little Toyota pickup, listening to great music, getting a great music education. We saw the Dixie Chick. We were in that little pickup. We went over to Overton Music Festival one day and saw these two gals that were musicians calling themselves the Dixie Chicks. And they were tearing that stage up. They were good. You could tell that they've been raised by musicians. These girls were good. And Uncle Bobby was watching them after they got done with their set. He said, man, them guys are going to get a front person. They just need a little gal or something that can sing, a little front person. They're going to blow up. They're going to be a huge band. Bro, he's like Bubba Damas. Like 3 years later, Dixie Chicks Everywhere, Natalie Main's lead singer, and blow up. They just huge. He's Bubba Damas. I say that about him all the time as a joke. He used to tell me all kind of wild stuff. Told me one time when I was a kid that by the time I got his age, we'd have to buy air and water. I thought he's a crazy person. Then one day I was at Sam's Club putting air in my tire and watched some people wheel a pallet of water out their cars. I thought, damn it. Bubba Damas. First time he saw George W. Bush, I remember this. Me and him were sitting at the house watching TV after work one day, and George W. Bush had just become, it was the inauguration, governor's inauguration, when he'd just become governor of Texas. Uncle Bobby goes, that man's going to be the next president of the United States. I said, you're out of your mind. He just became governor of the state. And there we are. It happened. He's a good dude. Learned a lot riding around that little Toyota. And those little Toyota trucks are great, man. You get your hands on one. I think most of them are box frames, right? You can do engine swaps in them. You can do whatever, man. Or just keep that little 22 RE. There's a lot you can do to wake a little 22 RE up. I tell you right now, boy, if I run across me a little 86 two-wheel drive extra cab Toyota tomorrow, I might make a bid. If it just happened to be silver and have a white toolbox. Hell, then I might have to go find me a little English bulldog and name him Gizmo, feed him Happy Meals and whiskey. Just kidding. That's not what you do for a dog. My wife would string me up. As always, I appreciate you guys sharing Piece of Your Sunday with me and hanging out for this. This was a special one, and I tackled it a different way. It was a little more free thought and stream of conscious, and hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, well, shit, there's always next week. You appreciate you guys liking and sharing what I'm doing here. Love all the comments. Love reading the comments. I got a beautiful email in the mail a few days ago from a lady in the Bay Area that just wrote me one of the most touching emails about the Wrecking Yard podcast and what it means to her and what it has made her feel and open her eyes to. And I appreciate that. I try to give you guys the stuff and let you figure it out. But I hope I didn't make you too sad. I wasn't trying to make you sad today. I just that's why I went and got lit last night and listened to his music, because I knew I needed a little him in, I needed that. I needed that feeling of being around him. I needed to commune with him. I commune with him often. He's one of those people that's not really dead to me because he's so alive inside me and so alive to me. So I do commune with him often. Um, I don't know where we're going to go next week. I got some thinking to do on it. It's a balmy Saturday evening here. I'm a little late recording this week, which means I'm going to be up late tonight editing. The old time vampire. But I will be in the live chat. Well, you guys know. I'm here. Again, Before we go, I want to thank sponsors that brought you the Wrecking Yard podcast today, the Everyone Racers podcast. Please go check those guys out. Like I said, I'll put links for you guys so you can get to them. Please go check them out. I think a lot of you would enjoy it a great deal, especially if you got to do a lot of driving. You need something to binge and listen to. They have a huge catalog of episodes. They've been doing this for a minute. And it's a damned interesting conversation. Like I said, I didn't know anything about endurance racing, and now I'm so tickled about the possibility of going to my first one and getting to be a part of it. I'm really excited about it. And God knows I love cheap little shit boxes being thrown on a racetrack and get the piss beat out of them. It sounds like a dream. I'm in. Man, guys, we can y'all and my management can get the details worked out. I'm in. Canadian fans, I'm not going to be there next week. I know I was supposed to be in Calgary. I know they're still advertising I'm going to be there, but me and the owner of not me, but the management and owner of the club can't. They don't want to honor the deal they offered me last year, and they went back on what the deal was. And I don't know why that is, and I'm not going to cast aspersions or make. I really like the man that owns that club. I got along with him famously while I was in Canada. We had a great time, I thought, working together. But business is business, and sometimes things get crossways. They don't work out. Unfortunately, I will not be coming to Canada in September. So I got to fill those holes, and that's always fun, having to fill holes at last minute on your schedule. But we'll see. Maybe it's going to give me time to go mess with the Volkswagen. All that's coming together quite well, and I'm looking for it. Think about maybe setting that thing on a Toyota Yaris. Might be a fun little daily, little run around machine, a little Super Beetle sitting on a Toyota Yaris. At least I wouldn't have to work on the engine. just run the dog piss out and enjoy it. Teach my kids how to drive in it. Have some fun. We'll see. My mind's going all kind of different directions about it. Thank you guys for being here. As always, I hope that your lives are improving and you're figuring out how to deal with any roadblocks that get in your way. And if you're not, I'm rooting for you. And I mean that. I'm not, it's not just empty words. I'm really rooting for you. I want to see the people that are working hard succeed. And I know a lot of you are going through some stuff right now, trying to y'all talk to me about it. And the economy's tight. Everything sucks right now. I get it. That we get to share this fellowship. Yeah. But hope things are getting better for you. And keep an eye out, man. My schedule may be getting crazy, but we'll definitely be here next Sunday. And as always, I'm JW, and I love you. What's that song he loved so much? I cannot remember the name of it. Saved my life on the spot. What was it? Mental jewelry. Oh, I think I know. I think that song is. I think that song's called. What was that song? I couldn't remember it. Tired of me. Tired of me. What's that? Tired of the water. It's tired of me. Good night, Christopher Robin.